Now, Prince William County, why are we talking about this today, right? All this going on, President Trump within the hour meeting with Vladimir Putin. Why are we talking about Prince William County? Who cares? Here's why. A kerfuffle going on there, scuttlebutt, if you will. Just the other day, the Prince William County Board of Supervisors passing an ordinance to allow a sewer connection for this super huge mosque called the Adams Center. And it passed the supervisors 5-3, Corey Stewart, chairman. And there's a lot of talk about this meeting went out till 3 a.m. One of the supervisors, their vote wasn't recorded correctly. I got a bunch of calls on this and a bunch of negative stuff going on with Corey Stewart, who they said maybe was involved in having these people, they're big donors to his campaign, things like that. I haven't really done the research. I don't know everything that's gone on. But joining us now to try to explain the whole thing is Prince William County Supervisor Jeanine Lawson. Jeanine is one of 3 supervisors in Prince William County that voted no for not the mosque, but for the sewer extension that the mosque needed to be constructed on this particular land site. The supervisors that were opposed to this saying, no, you can't have this sewer. We've already passed it, so you can't do that. Just put the mosque someplace else that fits the ordinance. Not that they didn't want the mosque. They didn't want it at this location, but it slides through anyway. Here to clear this mess up, Supervisor, Prince William County, Jeanine Lawson. Good to have you with us, Jeanine.
Hi, John. Good to hear from you. Thanks for showing interest in this contentious issue that was so improperly handled last week and was led by Chairman Corey Stewart.
Can you be the beacon of truth here and tell our audience what the hell happened?
Sure. Well, to give you a little background, so Prince William County has a protected area where we are very restrictive in our development ordinances, and it's called the Rural Crescent, and the purpose is to steer intense development out of the rural area and into the designated development area of Prince William, because in the last 20 so years, the county has grown exponentially. And so ADAM stands for All Dulles Area Muslim Society, and they purchased a parcel of about 15 acres in the Rural Crescent in the district that I represent. And well, first of all, so the sewer policy is very, very restrictive. We do not allow sewer connections into the rural area unless, of course, it's for a public facility such as a school or a fire station. It's, government saying, do as I say, not as I do. And then occasionally there are exceptions of sewer connection, but the applicant has to prove why it's such an extenuating circumstance for them to be granted the sewer connection. For example, a house has to show that they have a failing septic system. And then, of course, they have to pay the cost to extend the sewer. And the whole purpose is development follows sewer lines. So if you cut off the sewer connection, you thereby deter development. So Adams purchased this 15 acres
now, who was
about
Adams?
4 years ago.
Tell our audience,
and
Jeanine,
they were
who
requesting
was Adams?
the sewer connection.
Jeanine, explain who Adams is.
Adams is All Dulles Area Muslim Society. And
All Dulles Area Muslim Society, got
their
it.
main center, I believe, I want to say it's in Sterling. It's and about 4 or 5 years ago, they announced in the D.C. region that they had purchased several lots throughout the region to expand, and so they purchased a lot in the district that I represent to build a local mosque and community center, and for the members that live here in western Prince William County.
Right. So the Adams group is, again, the
All Dulles Area Muslim Society.
All right, All Dulles Area Muslim Society, and they purchased land in a restricted area to put up this mega mosque in Prince William.
Yeah, I mean, in all fairness, you really can't call it a mega mosque because it's 22,000 square feet. I do believe it's too large for the area. However, there have been other religious institutions with greater square footage.
So let's just say a mosque, okay? So they want to do a mosque there, fine, right? That's your objection was not to the mosque. Your objection was to the land that they purchased to build the mosque was out of compliance with what the ordinance is.
Correct. Yes, the rural area, you can build a religious institution in the rural area. So the zoning was applicable, but they had to get what's called a special use permit. And the special use permit allows us to restrict the uses to mitigate the impact of the development. And they were also requesting the county to violate our sewer policy. And because the sewer line, of course, would allow them to build as large as they wanted, which in this case is 22,000 square feet, I did not want to grant that. I wanted them to reduce. I wanted them to follow our comprehensive plan, which is a septic system. And by doing so, they would have had to reduce the scope of their building, the size of their building, because, of course, you have to engineer an underground septic system and a drain field.
All right, so you basically, I'm just trying to cut to the chase. So you basically said, look, you want to build a mosque, that's fine. You own the land, but you have to be in compliance and you have to change the size, do a septic tank. You got to follow the rules, right? Mosque.
Correct.
Or
Correct.
if I came in and I wanted to put up a Catholic church on the same land, same 22,000 feet, and I made the same application and I called your office, you would say, John, Catholic church sounds great, but you can't do 22,000 feet because you're out of compliance with the ordinance we have, and you either have to get in compliance or you're going to have to go without sewer or whatever, right?
Right, and it's funny you say that because my colleague, Supervisor Pete Canlin, in his district just less than 2 years ago had a Catholic church that bill, it was approved, and they had to use a septic system because Pete told them in advance that they didn't have a justifiable reason to break our policy.
That's because Catholics play by the rules.
The Catholics, we're happy to respect our county laws, and the Muslims did not prove why they were asking for the sewer connection. They just simply said, well, because you've approved these two other Christian churches in the rural area, and my argument was, well, yeah, but they had extenuating circumstances on their parcel, and the Barack Obama DOJ in the last 8 years has made it very, very difficult for jurisdictions to deny mosque because regardless of what the land use reasons are, and I had a very strong land use case, the Obama administration has been running to the aid of all the Muslim organizations across this country, and Adams knew it, and so they threatened to sue just based on us on the board in previous years before I was even on the board, granting sewer connection to two Christian churches that, again, had demonstrated extenuating circumstances.
Okay, so they threatened a lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
They had standing when Obama was in power, and they had the Obama DOJ and Loretta Lynch there, and they were trying to skirt rules to get as many mosques up as they can so they could transform America. Okay, I get that. By the way, just sidebar, just so you know, Jeanine, I'm Catholic. Catholics always play by the rules. You know, it's what we do. We play by the rules. Now, sidebar. Let's go back. Okay, so you're opposed to this. Makes sense. Then you get to your big meeting, and it goes on till 3 a.m., and there's votes being manipulated and changed, and rules being changed, and parliamentary order being thrown out the window. What did Corey Stewart do that made everybody mad?
He blatantly violated basic parliamentary procedure and blatantly violated our own annually adopted board rules of procedure, completely dismissed everything. On more than one occasion, I objected to what he was trying to ramrod down my district, and he blatantly violated it. I had never seen anything like it before.
Like, give us an example. What happened?
Well, the first thing is I moved for approval, but with the septic system.
Right.
And it became very evident that he had concocted this plan with two of my board colleagues, one a Democrat, one a Republican, and they immediately went to a substitute motion to approve the Mosque vote with sewer, and that vote failed 4-4. We're an 8-man board, so a tie is a failing vote. And so when
lost.
that failed, he immediately wanted to, rather than take my motion that had been on the floor, he immediately looked for a substitute motion, reconsideration, which I objected and said, reconsideration, sir, your party, meaning your 4 block of votes failed because we blocked it, and he completely dismissed my objection, wouldn't let the county attorney and the clerk rule the way they should have, and completely ramrodded this thing through. It was unbelievable, and people in the board chambers were outraged. And then he went on to break parliamentary procedure by basically announcing and telling one of our other board colleagues how to vote. And it's all on tape.
Explain that one, because in the first vote that they tried to get this passed, it ended in a 4-4 tie, right?
Correct.
That was posted, which means it's defeated, which technically means they should move on to the next motion, which was my original motion, because they had substituted it with the sewer. Right.
So it should have gone back to my original motion. And when his plan wasn't working, the outcome that he wanted, which was sewer connection,
right,
that's when he really started to break the rules. And they divided the question improperly, because if they were going to divide the question, we know that division of the question means the prongs of the division have to stand on their own. Well, that didn't make sense. And the division of the question would have meant septic anyway, because there was no mention of sewer connection in the resolution I had moved forward.
So how did they get, who was the councilman, who was the supervisor that changed their vote to make it 5-3 for the Mosque to go forward with the sewer? Who was the supervisor, and how was that vote manipulated?
Well, after a series of several votes and a lot of violations and confusion at 3:30 in the morning, and after Corey had called for a recess, which he alone is not allowed to do, but he did, Supervisor Jenkins, who had been voting with me, voted with Corey at the end of the evening. And I'm not speculating this, but many people are accusing Corey of pressuring and bullying Supervisor Jenkins. He certainly made a point to speak to him during the recess, and eventually, after a long series of votes, Supervisor Jenkins voted with Corey and his pack for sewer at the end of the night.
So, Supervisor Jenkins, now, was he the swing vote? I mean, obviously, you guys knew ahead of time who your three were. Was he kind of the swing vote?
But he had made it very clear throughout the board debate. This gentleman has been on the board for 35 years and was on the board when the Rural Crescent was instituted.
Right.
And had made it very clear what his position was, and again had voted in a series of votes with me. And Corey called a recess, I'm sure knowing that he could work his magic and flip his vote.
So basically, when the first vote was taken, it failed. And then what you're saying, and of course, all this is public, it's on tape, everybody's got access to it. So what you're saying is, then Corey Stewart, the chairman, threw all the normal parliamentary rules out the window in order to confuse and delay, then calls for a recess, then pressures Jenkins, Supervisor Jenkins, to vote his way. They get another vote. It passes 5-3. They hit the gavel. End of meeting. Mosque wins. What was Corey's incentive here? Speculate.
Corey's incentive, well, I don't know about his incentive, but he had made a promise to Adams 3 years ago. and he delivered the promise. Regardless of rules and procedures, he had a promise to deliver, and that he did. And this vote should have happened last winter in January or February, because our Planning Commission heard the case in November and December, and so typically it comes to us soon after the commission. But, of course, Corey didn't want this contentious vote while he was running for governor, and because he's the chair and controls the agenda, he intentionally moved it until after the primary. And he had a 3-year-old promise that he needed to deliver, and that he did, regardless of the rules.
So essentially, I guess what I'm trying to get my arms around is Supervisor Jenkins voted no. Under normal circumstances, that's done, right? That failed. Their
Correct.
motion
he voted
failed.
With me and 2 other supervisors to block the sewer connection.
So that failed. So that should have been the end
failed.
of it.
And then Corey, all hell broke loose from there, and Corey threw the rules out the window.
In order to find a way to delay, stall, and to get a second vote.
Correct.
And then before the second vote, call a recess so he could pressure Jenkins to change his vote.
Yeah, and actually there were a series of votes, John, because, they tried to divide the question. Well, they did divide the question, and, of course, it was improper. But Supervisor Pete Canlin and I asked the county attorney to advise us of the different procedures and votes that were violated, and we are expecting her report today. Now, if it's going to change the outcome, I don't know yet. I'm somewhat doubtful. I want to manage people's expectations. But no doubt what Corey displayed was a utter abuse of his chairmanship.
All right, let's get to the phone lines. We have a question for you or a comment. Tony from Virginia Beach. Tony, you're on the line with Prince William County Republican Supervisor Jeanine Lawson.
Yes, sir. I see this stuff happen where rules are broken, procedures are interloped, and then once it's over, it happened during Obama's administration. It's happening here locally. It happens federally. And once it's over, that stuff stands. How does that stuff stand when it's illegal?
Well, sir, you raise a great question, and that's why I'm waiting for the county attorney to advise our board. And I unfortunately don't have a report yet. I'm expecting it today. But I'm certainly exploring any path of recourse that I believe my district deserves because of.
Well, I guess my question is, you've got rules and regulations. Those rules and regulations were broken. How does it go through? When they break the rules and they break the regulations, how does it stand? And how come you have to go back and prove that you were right when it was broken all along? Why do you have to go back and prove? Why do you have to go back and get a lawyer and do all this stuff? The rules are broken. That's it, period.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't know Virginia code well enough to know if there's any type of path to recourse, because at the end of the day, he's going to say, well, I got my 5 votes while the board was conducting business.
Yeah, there's nothing you're going to be able to do here, Jeanine, because the Chairman Stewart, broke the rules, manipulated the system in order to get enough time to go by where he was able to get a second vote on the same ordinance that had already been defeated, and then have the recess and then put the pressure on Supervisor Jenkins, who then, cast his vote, change his mind. He's a supervisor. He can do what he wants. So he changes his mind, and then he votes with Stewart, and then they hit the gavel. So it's frustrating, no question about it. But I think, as Tony from Virginia Beach was saying, the genesis of this is, how was Corey allowed to break the rules consistently without somebody just standing up and saying, hey, you can't do that, meeting over. Obviously you tried, but the chairman and his supervisor situation has, the power to do this. Not becoming a Corey Stewart, right? I mean, he should have just followed the rules, right?
Right.
And now your hands are tied because it's already passed. So you're screwed.
Well, I don't know yet. I'm not ready to throw in the towel. I owe it to the community that I represent, which by and large opposed this because of the impacts that it would have on their quiet rural area.
Right.
And it borders with a community in the development area, and they're already suffering from gridlock of local traffic.
Well, plus they're getting preferential treatment because the Catholic Church had to they had to follow the rules and go with the septic tank, right? Downsize.
Right.
So they're getting preferential treatment. I mean, two religious organizations, same zoning area, both following a different set of rules.
Right.
To the detriment of the Catholic Church. I mean, it's really unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. And, John, that's exactly what it is. They wanted privileged treatment. They knew that under the DOJ of Obama, they were getting treatment for 8 years. And I wasn't willing to advance privileged treatment. They had not demonstrated the exception. And there's a court case in the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals down by you guys in Newport News where a church had lost their argument for a zoning appeal that was upheld. And I was willing to meet this applicant in the courtroom because I felt strongly that we had a strong case. But Chairman Stewart didn't want it to go that far, and I was certainly willing to, and we'll see how this falls out.
Look, we're almost out of time, but in Prince William County, aren't you guys also doing this humongous minor league taxpayer-backed stadium?
Yeah,
for the Nationals?
Which, right now
Single A
it's going
team?
to be at least $35 million. So Corey's arguing that he didn't want to risk the taxpayers of Prince William getting sued by Adams and having to, pay legal fees and whatnot. But yet he's fine ramrodding a $35 million minor league stadium down the throats of Prince William taxpayers that he knows has great risk. And again, that's another political payoff to one of his very large donors, who is Art Silber, owner of the Potomac Nats baseball team.
All right, and that's so that everybody knows the Potomac Nationals baseball team. I think that's Single A, isn't it?
Correct.
Single A.
Yep.
Right, Single A baseball.
Single A
minor league baseball affiliate of the Nationals, and what's his name? Art Silber, right?
Yep. Art
Silber's the owner. And so they're trying to get a taxpayer-funded stadium, much like they tried to do for the Squirrels in Richmond that got rejected. But trying to do that. And if you look at the history of Single-A baseball, it's very tough to make money there. It's a very tough business model, Single-A baseball, because they are the affiliates of the Nationals. But you look at the business model, it's very tough. Double-A a little bit easier. Yep. Triple A's are always profitable. You get down to Single-A, you have an average attendance in the U.S. and Single-A baseball is about 450 people. That's the average, right? They have a big Sunday game. They get 2,200. 500 is about the average. Very tough to do. We're out of time. I want to thank Jeanine Lawson, fighting the good fight, Supervisor, Republican, Prince William County, fighting Corey Stewart. But the Adams Mosque wins. They get preferential treatment over the Catholic Church. Jeanine, remember, Catholics, we play by the rules. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, John.